Before we start today's episode, we just want to bring you a word from our amazing sponsor, June's Journey. It's a free to download hidden objects game that I can't put down. It's also a fantastic mystery game with a captivating detective story and a brilliant, diverse cast of characters that takes place in the roaring 1920s. June Parker is trying to solve the murder of her sister, but as she digs deeper, she discovers that her family has a lot of secrets that many family members don't want exposed. June is an amazing detective who often finds herself in precarious situations, but she also helps her friends in her own witty ways. Along the way, you get to customize your mansion and garden island to suit your personality. Personally, I love June's Journey because I can spend hours doing the searches. They're just a ton of fun. Also, I love a good story, and June's Journey has a great detective story at the core of the game. Download June's Journey for free by clicking on the link below in the description or scanning the QR code on the screen. June's Journey is available on Android and iOS mobile devices, as well as on PC through Facebook Games. Check out June's Journey today. Number 3. Bryant Rivera. Tijuana is on the border of the United States and Mexico. On the American side is San Diego, California. The San Isidro and El Chaparral ports of entry are the busiest border crossings in the world. Tijuana is home to nearly 2 million people. 28-year-old Karen Gonzalez Arguelles moved to the city from Blanca, Mexico. She was the mother of a young daughter. In August 2020, Arguelles was working at the Hong Kong Gentlemen's Club in Tijuana. The Hong Kong Gentlemen's Club is a notorious strip club. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It has been closed several times because murders and overdoses have happened in the club. On the night of August 30th, 2020, Arguelles went on a date with a man she had met at the club. She did not return home. 4 days later, the body of the 28-year-old mother of one was found in a garbage dump in a canyon that separates Tijuana and San Diego. She had been beaten in the face and strangled to death. 20-year-old Angela Carolina Acosta Flores also worked at the Hong Kong Gentlemen's Club. Besides dancing, she also did sex work. Acosta started working at the Hong Kong Club in August 2020. She was from Monterrey, Mexico. She had been in medical school, but struggled when classes went online during the pandemic. So she moved to Tijuana to start working at the club. That same month, she met her boyfriend at a party hosted by the club. On the night of January 24th, 2022, 20-year-old Acosta went to work at the club. She met a man and then went with him to the hotel above the club, which is commonly used for sex work. She texted her mom at 10:12 p.m. and told her she was going into room 404 for 30 minutes. That was the last time she heard from her daughter. Her mother called and texted several times, but she didn't hear back from her daughter. Acosta's mother contacted Acosta's boyfriend and told him that she couldn't reach her. Her boyfriend was in Los Angeles, California at the time. He drove straight to the hotel. Acosta's mother and boyfriend pleaded with the staff to let them into the room. But they wouldn't let them into the room because the person who had booked the room had it booked until 1 p.m. Finally, at 11:35 a.m., staff entered the room. They found the nude, dead body of Angela Acosta on the floor of the bathroom. Paper had been stuffed in her mouth. She had been beaten and strangled to death. The police had a lot of evidence in the case. Acosta and her killer were recorded on the hotel's cameras. Then the killer left the hotel room alone at 11:49 p.m. and no one else entered the room. 13 minutes later, the same man was seen on foot crossing into San Diego via the San Isidro port of entry. Several people at the hotel were able to describe the man. They said he was an American, about 30, and had acne scars and a mole on the left side of his nose. One person even knew his name because he was a regular at the Hong Kong club. She said his name was Bryant Rivera. The police got a photo of Bryant Rivera, who lived in Downey, California. His photo was placed in a photo lineup, and the lineup was shown to the hotel manager. The manager picked Rivera as the man he saw at the hotel with Acosta. Hours after the murder, Acosta's boyfriend tracked her phone. It was in Downey, California. A few days later, Acosta's Apple Pay was used at restaurants in Downey. The boyfriend passed all that information along to the FBI. However, despite a lot of evidence, no arrest was made. 25-year-old Elizabeth Martinez Sigorora also worked at the Hong Kong club, and she also did sex work. About 3 weeks after the murder of Angela Acosta, on Valentine's Day 2022, Sigorora went out for the night. She told her family she was going on a date with a client. 3 days later, her nude dead body was found in the trunk of her car. She had been strangled to death. In March 2022, a Mexican reporter, Rosario Masso Castro, with the magazine Seda, published a story positing the theory that a serial killer was using the Hong Kong club as his hunting grounds. That same month, a judge in Mexico signed an arrest warrant for 31-year-old Bryant Rivera. This was the easiest way to arrest Rivera. To arrest him in the United States and extradite him to Mexico, the Mexican authorities would need to prove to the American authorities that he was guilty of a crime. That could take a year or longer. In November 2022, Rosario Masso Castro published another story where she named Bryant Rivera as the suspect in the case and published his photo from his driver's license. After the story was published, a prosecutor in Baja California, Mexico, made a public statement about Rivera. He compared him to notorious serial killer Ted Bundy. He also implied that Rivera was on the run, but both Mexican and American authorities knew he was living in Downey, California. In early 2023, a woman named Shannon Sales, who lived in Los Angeles, read a story about a serial killer in Tijuana, but the article didn't contain Rivera's name. The article did have photographs of the serial killer, and she recognized him. It was her husband's best friend, Bryant Rivera. Her husband and Rivera had delivered Amazon packages together. Sales didn't like Rivera and discouraged her husband from hanging out with him. After reading the article, Sales contacted the FBI. Nearly half a year passed, and then finally, in July 2023, 30-year-old Bryant Rivera was arrested in Downey by the FBI and U.S. Marshals for the murder of Angela Acosta. The Mexican authorities plan on charging him with the murders of Elizabeth Martinez Segura and Karen Gonzalez Arguelles once he's extradited to Mexico. A month after Rivera was arrested, the Mexican authorities announced that they were investigating Rivera in connection with the murder of a fourth woman who worked at the club. They said there are similarities between her murder and the murders of the other three women. However, they did not release any more information regarding the murder. Rivera's parents are standing by him and say there is no way he could be responsible for these murders. At the time of this video, 30-year-old Bryant Rivera is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center, Los Angeles, awaiting extradition. Number 2. Rebecca Auborn. On January 15, 2022, paramedics were called to the home of 30-year-old Joseph Crumpler in Columbus, Ohio. He was suffering an overdose. He was rushed to the hospital, but he could not be revived, and he was pronounced dead. The police talked to a sex worker, 38-year-old Rebecca Auborn, who was with Crumpler when he overdosed. She admitted to providing fentanyl to Crumpler and stealing from him after he overdosed. Auborn was not charged with any crimes. Crumpler's death was ruled an accidental overdose. Several months passed, and then on April 1, 2023, the police were called to a hotel in Columbus. 54-year-old Robert Snoke had fatally overdosed on fentanyl. Cocaine was also in his system. His death was also ruled an accidental overdose. Another death labeled an accidental overdose happened less than 2 weeks later, on April 13th. He was 64-year-old Wayne Akin. His body was found 4 days later on what would have been his 65th birthday. A couple months later, on June 15th, the dead body of 42-year-old Guy Renda was found outside in a residential area in Columbus. His death was ruled an accidental overdose. He had fentanyl and cocaine in his system. Shortly after that death, the Central Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force received a tip that a sex worker was giving his clients fentanyl without their knowledge. Then, after they were unconscious, she would rob them and leave them to die. The task force investigated the tip, and it led them to 33-year-old Rebecca Auborn, who had been with Joseph Crumpler before he died and had admitted to providing him with fentanyl. Auborn was from Columbus and didn't have a serious criminal record. She did do sex work and often met men at hotels. In 2016, Auburn's 18-day-old daughter passed away. The police interviewed Auburn, and she admitted to being with one of the other victims. She said she had mixed fentanyl into his crack, and then he overdosed. She knew he was overdosing, but she did nothing to help him. Instead, she stole his debit card and his truck. The police also discovered that a fifth man had overdosed while he was with Auburn in December 2022, a month before the first victim died. In October 2023, Auburn was charged with 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 5 counts of felonious assault, and 5 counts of corrupting another with drugs, among other charges. The police believe that Auburn may have other victims. They are currently reviewing other overdose deaths in the area to see if Auburn was with them before and while they died. They also hope other victims who survived and anyone with information about Auburn will come forward. On October 25, 2023, when Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost announced that Auburn was indicted, he called her a serial killer. He also said, "Don't buy sex in Ohio. It ruins lives and could cost you yours." 33-year-old Rebecca Auburn is currently in jail awaiting trial. Number 1. Jesse Calhoun. On February 19, 2023, the police were called to a wooded area in Portland, Oregon. Some human remains had been found. The body was later identified as 22-year-old Kristen Smart. If the cause of death was determined, it was never made public. She had been missing for about 2 months before her remains were found. Her family had filed a missing persons report on December 22, 2022. According to Smart's family, she was an animal lover and had worked at an animal hospital. On April 8, 2023, the police were called to a barn on an abandoned property in Ridgefield, Washington. Ridgefield is about 22 miles north of Portland. Near the barn was the dead body of 32-year-old Joanna Speak, who lived in Oregon. She had been murdered. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head and the neck. It's believed that she was murdered in Portland and that her body was dumped near the barn. A few weeks later, on April 24th, the body of Charity Lynn Perry was found in a culvert near Ainsworth State Park in Oregon. The state park is about 35 miles east of downtown Portland. If the cause of death was determined, it was not made public. Perry's mother said that she had extreme mental illness, including schizophrenia. The same day, another body was found in Portland. The woman has never been identified. She was described as Native American or Alaskan Native. It's estimated that she's between 25 and 40 years old. She had medium-length black hair and brown eyes. She was about 5 feet tall and weighed 135 pounds. She does have some distinguishing features, including 2 large scars on her left lower leg. She also has 2 tattoos. One tattoo was on her upper left chest. It was a black music note with the letter V. The second was on her right upper back, a Buddha. She was also wearing some jewelry, which is on the screen now. Her body was found less than 3 miles from where Kristen Smart's body had been found less than 3 months earlier. 6 days later, on April 30th, the body of 31-year-old Bridget Leanne Webster was found about 60 miles southwest of Portland. The cause of death wasn't released, but the police said her death was suspicious. Just over a week later, on May 7th, the body of a sixth woman was found. It was in a wooded area about 25 miles southeast of downtown Portland. At the end of that month, she was identified as 22-year-old Ashley Reel. Reel had been reported missing about a month earlier. She was last seen on March 27, 2023 at a fast food restaurant in Portland. A few weeks later, on June 1st, the Portland-based newspaper, The Oregonian, published a story about the 6 deaths. They did not say that the deaths were connected, but they did talk about the similarities between them. They pointed out that all the women were under 40, all had connections to the greater Portland area, they all died within 5 months, and most of the bodies were found in wooded areas. This led to speculation on social media that a serial killer was responsible for all the deaths. 3 days after the story was published, the Portland Police Bureau issued a press release about the rumors. They stated that they had no reason to believe that the 6 deaths were connected. About a month and a half later, the Portland Police Bureau issued another press release. They said that 4 of the deaths were connected and they had a person of interest in custody. The 4 victims they thought were killed by a single person were Kristen Smith, Charity Perry, Bridget Webster, and Ashley Reel. It was determined that Joanna Reel's murder was not connected to the series of murders, but they did not explain why. They also ruled out foul play in the case of the Jane Doe. As for the person of interest, he is 38-year-old Jesse Calhoun. Calhoun works as a car detailer. He is also a talented painter. Calhoun has a long criminal record dating back to 2003. According to Coin 6, the Portland CBS affiliate, between 2013 and 2019, he had been charged with harassment, drug possession, theft, kidnapping, traffic violations, and other crimes. But many of those charges were dropped or reduced. The longest time he spent in jail was between 2009 and 2011 for convictions of 4th-degree assault for domestic violence. He has also led police on chases while riding a stolen motorcycle. One time he was stopped in a stolen van which had several guns in it. On February 19, 2019, the police executed a search warrant on the shed where Calhoun lived. He was wanted for a series of burglaries and cat prowls. He refused to come out of the shed, so the police sent in a K-9 unit named Bosco. Calhoun wrestled with Bosco and got the dog between his legs. He then tried to strangle him. An officer went into the shed to stop him from killing the dog, and Calhoun attacked the officer. Then other officers entered the shed. Calhoun was eventually taken into custody, and he was charged with assaulting a public safety officer and interfering with a law enforcement officer. Both the dog and the officer he assaulted were not seriously injured. Calhoun pleaded guilty to the charges regarding assaulting the officer and the K-9, plus the burglary charges. He was sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in prison. He was projected to be released on probation on June 30, 2022, and his sentence ends on June 9, 2024. But in 2020, there were intense forest fires in Oregon. Some inmates were offered a deal. They could work as forest firefighters and have up to a year shaved off their sentence. 41 inmates had their sentences commuted for being firefighters. Calhoun was one of them. On June 23, 2021, the governor granted him clemency and he was released a month later. He had shaved 11 months off his sentence. In December 2022, the first woman went missing. But it's important to note that he would have been paroled in July 2022. There were problems with Calhoun after he was released from prison. Specifically, 3 things happened that were violations of his probation and could have resulted in him going back to prison. On September 8, 2022, Calhoun smashed the windshield of a woman's car with a large stick with nails in it. Calhoun was angry because he believed that the woman owed him $10. The woman reported the incident to the police. On September 27, 2022, he was cited for driving with a suspended license. Court date regarding that was on December 13th, but he didn't show up. He was convicted of failing to appear in court and was fined $445. His car was also impounded. A few weeks later, on November 11, 2022, a woman reported to the police that Calhoun had assaulted her and strangled her. That woman was 22-year-old Ashley Reel, the last victim. There was no explanation as to why Calhoun wasn't charged with attacking Reel. On June 6, 2023, after the story was published in the Oregonian, Calhoun was arrested for probation violations. A month later, the governor rescinded Calhoun's clemency. A week after that, the police announced that Calhoun is a person of interest in the 4 murders. In July 2023, after Calhoun was arrested, his girlfriend posted a video on YouTube, and in the video she claims that Calhoun knew 2 of the victims. One was Ashley Reel, and the other was Bridget Webster. The police have not said why they think Calhoun killed the 4 women. However, he has not been charged with any crimes connected to the deaths of the 4 women. Calhoun has used an inmate communication system to send several messages to KGW8, the NBC affiliate in Portland. He claims that he has never killed anyone. He also wrote, "I have not been charged with anything for a reason. I'm guessing they are trying to come up with whatever they can on me, because they have no one else as an easier target as me / sitting duck." Currently, 38-year-old Jesse Calhoun is being held at the Snake River Correctional Institution in Ontario, Oregon. Unless he's charged in connection with the 4 murders, he'll be released in June 2024. At the time of this recording, the April 2023 murder of 32-year-old Joanna Speaks remains unsolved. Also, the Jane Doe who was found in April 2023 in Portland remains unidentified. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Please don't forget to check out our new channel, Paranormally Listed. There's a link on the screen now, and there's a link in the description box below this video. Well, that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.